What do most people do when a drill battery stops charging? The answer is usually simple. They throw it away and spend good money on a replacement. But today, I'm going to try an idea that I bet 99% of drill owners have never considered before. I'm going to use an ordinary phone charger to see if this dead battery can come back to life. And the result honestly surprised me. Hey everyone, I'm Dan. Welcome back to Dan Fix. Let's start by confirming the problem. I slide the battery into its charger and watch the indicator light closely. Nothing changes. The green light stays on. Normally, when a battery is charging, the light should switch to red. Since that doesn't happen, something is clearly wrong. That tells us the charger is working normally. The problem is definitely inside this battery. Now, I want to check whether the battery still has any usable voltage left. I take two metal washers and insert them into the battery terminals to create temporary contact points. This makes it much easier to connect testing equipment. First, I connect a small LED. No light at all. Next, I switch to a multimeter. The probes touch the washers. The reading barely moves. At this point, the battery appears completely dead. Sometimes, this happens when a battery sits unused for many months. The voltage drops so low that the protection circuit shuts everything down to protect the cells. Before trying any recovery method, I want to inspect the inside. I remove the screws and lift off the cover. Immediately, I notice a layer of dust covering several areas. Nothing looks burned, nothing appears broken, but dust and contamination can still cause problems over time. So, let's clean everything thoroughly. I take a brush and begin sweeping across the battery pack. Fine dust starts coming loose from the corners. I work slowly around the cell's connection strips and circuit board. Small particles collect along the edges. Then I rotate the battery and continue cleaning the opposite side. Sometimes a battery looks fine from the outside, but years of dust accumulation can trap moisture and contribute to corrosion. A few extra minutes of cleaning can make a big difference. After the battery pack is clean, I move to the plastic housing. An old toothbrush works perfectly for this job. The bristles reach into small grooves and corners that are difficult to access with a cloth. A surprising amount of dirt comes out. Now everything looks much better. Next comes one of my favorite workshop products, WD-40. Instead of spraying directly onto the battery, I spray a small amount into a cup first. Then I dip a cotton swab into the liquid. This gives me much better control. I begin cleaning the circuit board one section at a time. The cotton swab quickly turns dark. That tells me dirt and contamination are being removed. So I switch to a fresh swab and continue. I clean around the solder joints, around the battery connections, around the charging terminals. Every area receives attention. WD-40 helps displace moisture-loosened dirt and clean metal surfaces. It also evaporates fairly quickly, making it useful for maintenance work like this. As I continue cleaning, the board begins to look much fresher. Now, I want to make sure there aren't any loose connections hiding somewhere. Using a pair of tweezers, I gently press on the solder joints and contact points. Nothing moves. Everything appears secure. That's good news. If you're watching right now, let me know where you're from. And if you've ever recovered a drill battery before, share your experience in the comments. I always enjoy learning new repair techniques from people around the world. At this point, the battery has been cleaned and inspected. Now it's time for the experiment. Here I have an ordinary phone charger and an old charging cable. Most people have at least one of these sitting around the house. I carefully cut away part of the outer insulation. Inside, we can see the smaller wires. I continue stripping the ends until the copper conductors are exposed. The wires are very thin, so it's important to work slowly. Pulling too hard can easily break them. To remove the last layer of coating, I briefly pass the wire through a small flame. The coating burns away and leaves clean copper behind. After that, I prepare 2 alligator clips. One clip connects to the positive wire, the other clip connects to the negative wire. I twist the copper strands tightly around each clip and make sure everything is secure. Now we have a simple recovery cable. The phone charger provides a low and controlled voltage. The goal here is not to fully charge the battery. The goal is simply to wake it up. When a battery enters deep discharge mode, sometimes all it needs is a small boost before the original charger can recognize it again. I carefully connect the alligator clips to the battery terminals, positive to positive, negative to negative. Always double-check polarity before applying power. Getting it backwards can damage the protection circuit. Everything looks correct. So, I plug the phone charger into the wall outlet. Now, we wait. Just 1 minute. Nothing dramatic happens on the outside. But inside the battery, a small amount of energy is beginning to flow back into the system. That tiny boost may be enough to wake the protection circuit. After waiting, it's time to test again. Next, I connect the LED. And look at that. The LED lights up immediately. A few minutes ago, this battery couldn't power anything. Now it's producing usable electricity again. The result is honestly better than I expected. What looked like a completely dead battery wasn't actually beyond repair. It simply needed the right diagnosis and a small amount of help to recover. Projects like this are a great reminder that not every broken tool needs to be replaced. Sometimes understanding the problem is more important than buying new parts. A phone charger, an old cable, 2 alligator clips, and a little patience. That's all it took to bring this battery back to life. I install the battery back into the drill. Then I press the trigger. The motor spins instantly, strong, smooth, and exactly the way it should. That's already impressive. If you enjoyed today's project, don't forget to like and subscribe. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what repair project you'd like to see next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.